Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Advanced Football X's and O's. So today we are going to look at three of the most popular plays in the NFL, and we are going to analyze them from both a receiver standpoint and a quarterback standpoint. But before we do that, we are going to briefly discuss a major difference between college offenses and NFL offenses. And that is that college offenses are very pure, while NFL offenses are very impure. What that means is that if we looked at a college offense and say we were able to name it either air raid or run and shoot or triple option or pro style, any of these names, we would instantly know, just based off the name, what set of plays they run. And that is because they have very limited practice time, they don't have professional athletes, they're pretty limited at what they can do, and they end up having only a certain subset of plays that they run that all complement each other, and they don't really branch out farther than that. They don't have the time to do so. And that's the exact opposite of the NFL, where they have pretty much unlimited practice time. So if one team kind of busts out something new and they just start just doing amazing with it, the other 31 teams in the league are going to look at what they're doing, that concept or play, whatever it is, and say, okay, well, that's going on our playbook. And what that leads to is that everyone in the NFL pretty much runs everything. You do get some teams that have small little details differences within plays, or they have different tendencies within plays, or their coaches have different views on what it takes to win a game, say like their run-pass percentage. But when it comes down to it, everyone pretty much runs everything. So when we look at these plays in this video, know that only some college teams may run these plays, while on the other hand, every NFL team runs these plays. So the first play we're going to look at is levels. So if we bring up our play sheet, this is the Packers version of levels, or at least on this specific play. They run it out of a 5 wide receiver set. They're empty. There's no one in the backfield. And the main thing that we look at is with levels is this inside concept. If you watch the second video, we looked at how ASU ran levels. This is the same concept in the middle, but here, the Packers, they run it with these outside routes. They run it with another in by this first receiver, and they run it by an out by this receiver. And what that leads to is that they get three kind of horizontal breaking routes on this same exact yard marker. And what you can end up with is some interesting like stretches on these zones that we have here. But mainly when we talk about levels, we're looking at this vertical stretch like we talked in the second video, but it's interesting how the Packers run it here, where we get these extra routes breaking on the same exact yard marker going the same direction. So you can see how that could create some extra confusion for the short linebackers. From a quarterback standpoint, here we would probably read it 1 to 2 to 3. We would just briefly glance at this outside in, and then we'd instantly get to our levels concept if we don't like it, and we would just do a high-low on this linebacker right here, whichever linebacker that happens to be with whichever zone we're looking at. So we'll talk about this a little bit more when we look at Giants, but let's see how the Packers fare with it. So if we start the play, what we're really looking at is our two players right here. We're looking for the shorter in, so boom, we get our shorter in right here, and we're looking at our deeper in that's coming right here. I'm going to watch these linebackers in the middle. So wow, you see, we end up with three defenders in the same exact spot really awkwardly. We have both of our routes breaking inside. Look at how much space both of them have. So right here, we can pretty much choose either, and since the shorter one is our first read, we're going with it. We get an easy catch and we get some yards. So if we pull it forward a bit, what we're really looking for is we want to look at these linebackers. So we have our shorter in. It's coming just barely off the screen. We can see Aaron Rodgers is looking at it. You can see how all of our linebackers kind of get sucked over. This middle linebacker did a horrible job here. But you can see how much space we have off of both of them. Normally, if this linebacker was actually in position, we'd be high-lowing him and kind of reading the short. If he's on the short, then we're going to throw it deep. But here, he just kind of blows it, and he gives us both guys. So if we look back, we can also see if the defense overplayed the levels concept and kind of really covered it, we can see how on this outside we also have a shorter end coming open, and that honestly has some space. And on the bottom side here, we also have that out route. So if they did overplay the levels, we have multiple short routes to kind of get a dump off pass. Or if it was in our reads and in our progressions, we have some more kind of all these routes breaking on the same plane for some horizontal stretches. And it's pretty good to recognize that, because when we look at how the Giants run levels, it's going to be very different. So if we pull up our play sheet again, now we're going to look at the Giants version of levels. Once again, we have the same concept in the middle. We have our shorter in and we have our deeper in. But instead of having these other shorter routes, here we just have two streak routes on the outside, and then to complement that, we have a running back blocking. So we're getting one less receiver out into a route, and then we have two kind of just 9 routes or streak routes on the sidelines. These streak routes don't complement levels pretty much at all. it doesn't really do us anything. It doesn't help it in pretty much any fashion. Other than maybe we stretch maybe like a center field safety if we're playing like cover 3, but we're not really concerned about that much with levels anyways. We're reading a short linebacker. So we can see with this, the Giants, they want to get vertical. They want to take shots down the field. Not only do they want their levels concept, but they want to kind of take these risks. They want to go for these big plays, where when we looked at the Packers version of the play, we can see how they want more consistency. They want, in case levels is covered, they have other short routes to go to, and they want to get yards after the catch. Whereas when we go to the Giants one, they want to get aggressive. They want to go downfield with it. So if we go over and we watch the Giants do the play, we do get an offsides call here, and that may kind of help Eli want to take a shot down the field here, but you can see how we've seen this a lot from the Giants, at least in the past, and this is Hakeem Nicks. This is absolutely their bread and butter here, but you can see how there's nothing kind of assisting levels like where we had in the Packers. They had those other routes. Here, we're just going up the sideline. We're getting aggressive, and we're taking shots, and this is really where we see differences in teams with plays. They're both running levels. The Packers, they want consistency, they want first downs, they want yards after the catch. The Giants, they're willing to take risks. They're willing to say, okay, we're just going to throw it deep down the sideline. It's going to be lower percentage, but when we do get the catch, it's going to be a big play. And if we kind of look at it from a statistical standpoint, there's a few key indicators for things that help you win games, and the most popular one is the turnover margin. The team that wins the turnover margin has like a 75% chance to win the game, stuff like that. Another big one, which is kind of number 2 in the list usually, is called explosive plays. Explosive plays are running plays over 15 yards or passing plays over 20 yards. Some teams vary on those yardages, but a lot of college coaches will come out saying, if we win the turnover margin and we win the explosive play margin over the other team, we have a 98% chance of winning the game. I forget what coach said that. I think it was Houston's coach who said that, and it's pretty much true. These plays are a big deal, being able to get these huge chunk plays so you don't have long drives of like 10 plus plays. And you can see here, between the levels, between the two teams, the Packers, they want consistency. They want their first downs, and they rely on Aaron Rodgers to say, we're comfortable with going 10 plays in a drive. We don't mind that. Whereas the Giants might say, okay, we're not as comfortable with that. We want to take shots down the field. We want to get aggressive. And it's not just that we had a free play here because of a defensive offsides. It's by design. They have 2 streak routes alongside their levels. They want to take these shots. And we've seen it with the Giants. When they are clicking, their offense can win Super Bowls with maybe less talent than other offenses, but when things go bad for this offense, things go really bad. So you can see the highs and lows there when you talk about just adding risks like this or taking these shots down the field. It really symbolizes their offense, their seasons. This symbolizes a lot with that team. So the next play we're going to talk about is called Y Stick, or sometimes just called Stick. And this play, what we're really looking at is the right side here. Sorry about that. What we're looking at is the right side here. And mainly we're looking at these 2 routes, but Stick is ran with 3 routes, and our outside receiver runs a 9 or a streak up the sideline. We are almost never throwing this route. It's more just to clear out any type of corner. If we're playing like cover 3 or man, it's just to clear out that corner. But what we're really looking at is these 2 inner receivers. And when you call Y Stick, 90% of the time you're throwing to one of these 2 receivers, it's just insane. We either have a 3-step drop or we have a 1-step drop by the quarterback, and we're reading 1, then 2, and then maybe backside we have a 3. So what we have here is we have a horizontal stretch between these 2 receivers, these 2 slot receivers, and if we're facing like cover 2, we do have a vertical stretch along the sideline, but mainly we're talking about the horizontal stretch we have with these 2 inner receivers. So our inner slot receiver just runs a speed out. He's just trying to get to the sideline as fast as humanly possible. So if we're facing like a cover 2, he will probably end up running at a corner, but he might stop it and maybe sit in the hole between the 2 zones. But then if we're facing cover 3 where we have a linebacker like running out to the flat, he wants to get outside of that linebacker and try and beat him to that sideline and get outside horizontal leverage on him and just get outside of him. Where this stick receiver is kind of this special part of this play. This stick route isn't really a curl or a comeback. He runs about 5 yards, and he just turns to the quarterback. He doesn't come back towards the quarterback, he just turns towards him. And then he kind of plays off of the linebacker or whichever short defender is right next to him. So if he has kind of a defender inside of him, he's just kind of going to drift outwards. He's going to get on his hip, get horizontal leverage with him, and just drift outwards. Whereas if he has kind of a defender outside of him, he's just kind of sit in this open hole. So this route for this inside receiver, usually it's a tight end. This is like, I don't know how many times I've seen Jason Witten complete this play. He just kind of finds the hole, and a lot of times he's going to end up having a defender just inside of him, and it's all about body positioning. He just kind of drifts outwards, puts his body between himself and the throw, and I don't know how many times I've just seen a tight end just body out a linebacker, gets an easy catch. And oftentimes with this play, we're not really talking about stretching zones. Once we pull up once we start looking at this play, you'll see how fast the ball comes out. Well, I really don't look at this play as being like a horizontal stretch or anything like that. I look at this play and it's almost like leverage. We're getting the ball out so fast, zones aren't developing. It's almost like we're facing man. We're just running into the guy in front of us and boxing him out. So let's look at how this is run. We're going to see the Patriots and the Saints run this. So here we have the Patriots, and it's going to be the bottom of the field. I believe this is actually 2 tight ends running this at the bottom, if I'm not mistaken. So let's see here. So we get up, boom, our stick just sits, and we have our speed out. And right here we can see both of them are wide open, but we throw it to our stick, he gets up after the catch, and he starts moving. So let's look at this again from the Patriots. We have one more here. Our stick gets up, boom, and our speed out. That linebacker was slow to chase him. He just gets right outside, and he's just going to go with it. But also here, our stick route, you see how we have an inner defender? He would slowly drift with this too, and he would slowly drift out. And once again, we pretty much have 2 wide open receivers. And the amazing thing about this play, the rush cannot get to this play. We're getting the ball out so quickly. There's just nothing the pass rush can do about this play. We're getting it and we're throwing it like that. So you can kind of see just what teams would like to run this play. It's a lot of Patriots, a lot of Saints, Packers, pretty much everyone runs this play, but you can see how fast we get that ball out, that this play is just huge. And when we watch the Saints run this, watch how fast this ball gets out. So once again, we're looking at the top here. This is actually Lance Moore. And watch how fast this ball gets out. Just boom, right when he sticks, Drew Brees throws it, easy catch, and we're going with it. If we go forward to our back view of this play, you can see actually what Lance Moore does here. So he gets up, boom, right when he turns around, he sees his linebacker running out. And actually, I think this is a defensive lineman. He sees him working outside, so what does he do? He just sits still, and we throw it inside of him. And that's pretty much just the whole part of this play is this stick route. It's named after the route, why stick. And this receiver is just kind of getting open in this space. We're kind of clearing out the corner on the outside. We're getting a speed flat to the outside. And then our stick route is just kind of working the space. And if we have a tight end, we're often using our body to put us in a position to catch the ball. And this is pretty much the most popular play in the NFL. The rush can't affect it. We get the ball out fast. A lot of the times we get yards after the catch. It's quick, it's simple, and we don't have to really worry about stretching zones or anything. We're just really just working space and just body positioning and leverage. So it's a pretty unique play when we talk about it from that standpoint. We abuse zones, not by stretching them, but kind of just getting body positioning on them. So the last concept we're going to talk about, if we pull back up our play sheet, is we're going to talk about 4 verticals. And on the left here is going to be the first play we see in 4 verticals. And it is as it sounds. We have 4 receivers running vertically up the field. And it's not that simple. Over time, this play has evolved to our outside receivers, as they're trying to get deep on their outside corner or whoever may be deep. If, say they have a corner, maybe it's man or it's cover 3 where they have a corner running with them deep, if they cannot get past this defender and stack them, they are going to stop at a certain yardage. Some teams are different, maybe 12 yards. Instead of just keep running deep where they can't beat their corner, they will stop and turn that into a comeback. And then of our 2 slot receivers running up the seams, one of them will be fixed onto the seam. He has no decision other just run up the seam. But their other seam receiver will be given a decision to bend it inside if there is space inside. So against like cover 3 where we have a zone in the middle of the field, he will keep up that seam. But say we face cover 2 where the safeties will kind of be more outside, he's going to bend this in and find that space on the inside. So there's some adjustments here. And then our last receiver, which will most likely be a running back, he's going to be slow. He's going to maybe chip a defender, help give our quarterback some time. But also, he's going to get out and he's going to kind of have an option, kind of like what we saw with the stick route. Usually you're going to end up with one defender here, because usually with 4 verticals, all of our linebackers, regardless of what zones they are, they're going to drift back with these receivers to kind of help out the safeties, help out the corners. What you're usually left with is kind of one linebacker, your middle linebacker, still in a short zone, and when this running back comes out, his job is just to beat him. If this linebacker's inside of him, he's going to run out to that sideline so fast, or say he's to the right, he's going to run out left as fast as he can. So this play could be deadly from both our vertical standpoint or a running back standpoint. Darren Sproles made a living on the New Orleans Saints on 4 verticals just because defenses would drop all their defenders deep. And you get Darren Sproles one-on-one with the linebacker, where after the catch, he has like 15 yards to run before anyone's even near him. So it's a really powerful play. And do note, when we watch this isn't a play where we're kind of trying to beat it over the top. Usually we're going to be throwing these seam routes on this play, and we're going to be hitting them in stride, kind of along kind of these seams on only like 15 yards deep. This play actually does not throw that deep as you might expect. And when we see this play for the second time in this video, we're actually going to see it from trips, and the play is exactly the same. However, our innermost slot receiver needs to get to the seam. So it's the same here as he's running up that seam. When we run it from trips, his job is just to get to the other seam. So let's see how these two teams run this play. So if we go over here, we're going to be seeing the Broncos running it from a 2x2 set. So we're going to have outside, outside, and on the seam and on the seam. Our receivers are literally stretching these zones. I believe we see cover 3 here. So we're going to have one deep safety. We're going to have 2 corners up the sideline. So what we're doing is we're horizontally stretching this safety in the middle of the field. We're going to have the seam route on both sides of him, and we're going to tell him, choose one. Let's see. So when we start running it, what do we see here? We actually see how we get our linebackers that they don't sit on their short zones. They see all 4 receivers are going vertical, so they are taught, get depth, help out your safety. So what ends up happening here is all 4 receivers are actually pretty covered here. They do a good job. But as we said, if our outside receiver here on the bottom sees that this corner is playing insanely deep and off, he's going to turn it into a comeback. And what does he do? Turns it into a comeback, and we get a catch. So that was pretty good. We got all receivers vertical, the defense went deep with it, and we got an easy catch with it. And if we kind of rewind this, look how much space we have here. I briefly talked about Darren Sproles. Look how much the defenders dropped. Our quarterback is all the way back here. Our line of scrimmage was like on the 30. If we had Darren Sproles like getting out here, he'd have one-on-one with that linebacker. Look how much space he has to just beat him. So you can see how deadly this is if you have a good running back coming out of the backfield. So we'll see the Colts running it now, and they're going to be running it from trips. And as we said, this innermost receiver, which here will be a tight end, his job is to get to the opposite seam and kind of be where he would be as if this is a 2x2 set. And here we're going to face cover 2. So he's going to be fixed running to this opposite seam, and then this slot receiver right here, he's going to actually have a job where he sees this safety over top of him. He's actually also going to bend it inside. So let's see how we abuse these safeties here. So right here, we have a Tampa 2 linebacker dropping deep, trying to help take this away. He's going to run inside with this crossing route that's aiming at the opposite seam. And if we look at our slot receiver here, he's also going to bend it inside behind him, and we get a throw, and we get a catch, and that's 20-something yards. So you can see here, that was 3 plays that pretty much every team runs. Out of the 3 of them, Y-stick is probably the most popular play in the NFL, just how quick and easy it is. But you can see how different teams might want to run each of these plays. When we talk about 4 verticals, we need to protect the quarterback. We're usually talking about like a 5-step drop or out of the gun, a 3-step drop out of the gun. Whereas Y-stick, it's just a 3-step drop. It's quicker. It's a 1-step out of the gun. It's very quick. We don't really have to worry about protecting the quarterback. But here with 4 verticals, we actually do need to protect the quarterback. But what's the trade-off? Y-stick, don't deal with pressure, but we're only getting like 5 yards. With 4 verticals, we have to protect the quarterback, but when we do it right, we can get a huge chunk of yards with it. So you can see how even though every team runs these plays, maybe the Colts like to run 4 verticals more, where the Patriots might only run 4 verticals a little bit at a time, but they love running Y-stick. So every team runs everything, but some teams will run these plays or concepts more than others. So next thing we're going to talk about is we're going to look at defenses going forward. We're going to keep it simple. We're going to look at some of the basic defenses, and then we're going to look at how these defenses evolve and how they end up covering concepts like 4 verticals or Y-stick. So I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video.